Next, we shall hear from our guest speaker. And our guest speaker is an old boy of St. Augustine's College, where he had his O and A levels. He also holds a degree from the University of Ghana, a business administration master's degree as well. He majored in agric and economics. He has held many leadership roles, including executive director of corporate and institutional banking at Barclays Bank, now ABSA, and head of institutional banking at Group at EcoBank Ghana Limited. Prior to being appointed to his present role, he was the director and global head of a project and asset-based finance at the Africa Export and Import Bank, headquartered in Cairo. He brings to the role over 25 years of banking experience within Africa, 15 of which has been at the very top as an executive management levels. Please put your hands together. Welcome Mr. Kofi Adomakoh. He's the MD of GCB Bank. He's our guest speaker.
Good morning. Your Excellency, Ambassador Stephanie Sullivan, U.S. Ambassador to Ghana, and President Linda Ampa, permit me to stand on existing protocols. First of all, let me thank you for inviting me because I had, prior to joining GCB, which I did almost a year ago, I hadn't heard of this network. So when I was invited, I did a bit of research and realized that it was in line with what I was trying to do in my previous employment in Afrexim Bank, in many other African countries. And I was very excited that back home in Ghana, this is what we have already started. So I didn't hesitate, and though last minute, I said I would definitely find time to do this. So thank you very much for inviting me. What was I going to talk about? I was asked to give a speech as the guest speaker, but I thought that I do a very short presentation and have a conversation around it. I believe in practical things. I've always been complaining when I attended many other conferences and seminars on the continent, because that's where my business was over the last 12 years, that we talk a lot and do very little. And we are tired of saying the same things. What we are going to talk about today, we all know about it, but we'll still talk about it. We will go back and we'll come back again. And we point fingers at each other. The solution is in this room. If we want to get value out of this, we can get value, but it depends on what we do with all of this. So I'll have a short presentation and just take you through a few slides. In the past, you will all agree with me that when we talked about sustainable financing, it was mainly driven by NGOs, DFIs, people who provided free money. And everybody thought sustainable financing was some fetish somewhere, or anything sustainable was not profitable. It wasn't connected with being something that was profitable. But interestingly today, many DFIs, NGOs, not-for-profit organizations are the agents of sustainable financing. So we ask ourselves, what is a sustainable business? Or what are the prerequisites for a sustainable business? In my opinion, a sustainable business is basically an approach to creating long-term value. Long-term value by taking into consideration the environment in which businesses operate. It's built on three main pillars: people, planet, and when we talk of people, we are talking about the well-being of people. When we talk of planet, we are talking about the resources with which we are endowed with, and profit. Today, we look at profits not only as what goes to shareholders, okay, but we look at what happens to all other stakeholders, the communities, our workers, our regulators, we need to have a system that moves away from only providing returns for shareholders, but looking at the bigger ecosystem if we want to be sustainable. So these three pillars of planet, people, and profit serve as a fundamental base, and they lead to bearability, viability, and equitability, which ultimately result in sustainable businesses. It is important that the business and the people must be able to bear the risks that the businesses take. It's also important that the risk-reward must also be balanced. It is only under these situations will we find a business that is sustainable. So basically, to run a sustainable business, to get involved in a sustainable project, it's imperative that our endowed human resources, our people and our communities, and our stakeholders, the risk reward to our stakeholders must be well aligned, and we must keep a good balance. Now, understanding sustainable finance. I'm sure we are all aware that on the 15th of October, Ghana published the National Sustainable Financing Framework. This is all in line in making, not only putting a framework in place, but making people aware, creating awareness about sustainable finance. And it's very important. Awareness is very important because you will find out that there's a lot of money sitting all over the continent and in Europe. Unfortunately, we are not able to tap into those funds. Why are we not able to tap into those funds? Because when you go through the projects, you will find out that most of them are not eligible. Even the banks ourselves, to attract that money into Ghana, we haven't taken steps to put in place certain structures to qualify to attract some of those funds. Very few banks are doing so in Ghana. And it's sad because on many occasions, you get DFIs coming into countries and having discussions with banks, but there's no pipeline. There's really no pipeline. The scale is not there. You can't scale up. The capacity is not there. The governance is lacking. So they don't fit into the programs that will lead to funding for some of those projects. And it's not because people don't know. It's probably because the capacity is not there. So I think the Bank of Ghana have taken the right steps. They've worked with banks. They've put together a framework. And they've come up with key principles that must guide banks in establishing their ESG framework to ensure that banks are compliant and banks will attract the necessary funding to be able to pass on financing to businesses in Ghana. There are 7 core principles. There are 7 core principles which I'll quickly run through. And these are the principles around which banks are building their ESG framework. These are the same principles that banks will use to determine the type of financing they will give or deploy capital for their customers. And it's important that the private sector engage banks on how this is going to work, because these are the things that banks will want to see in your businesses. They want to see how you identify risks in your businesses, environmental and social risk in your businesses. They want to see the type of governance that you put in your businesses, the type of governance that you put into your businesses to enable them lend to you to achieve sustainable lending. They want to ensure, and banks themselves will have to, as you know these days, many banks are under pressure to ensure that we have a proper gender balance framework, trying to get gender balance on our boards. And it's not because we just want to do it, but it is because it is the right thing to do. Over and above that, it is a prerequisite to attracting some of those funds that are coming from DFIs at very competitive rates and for long-term projects. And this is important because in transforming your business, in building a sustainable business, the type of funding you get and the way the funding is structured is very important. It's one of the reasons why many, as it were, green type projects have failed, because the funding has not been correct. So we'll also want to ensure that we promote financial inclusion. And by financial inclusion, you know, we are talking about the unbanked. How do we get the unbanked into the banking system? Obviously, technology is driving that agenda today, but it's still a very important agenda for banks. Okay, and so it becomes one of the key principles. Also ensuring that we have efficient and sustainable consumption and production. Managing resources efficiently such that production and consumption are sustainable. And last but not the least is reporting on compliance, which we all in this market find a challenge. Reporting on compliance. But we have to do these things so that we can learn about the problems we have. We have to do these things so that we give feedback which goes into the entire framework. Because we are doing all of these things because we want our businesses to live beyond us. We do not want our businesses to die when eventually our maker calls us. We want our businesses to live beyond us, and they can't live beyond us. There are some Ghanaian businesses. I'm very passionate about Ghanaian businesses, because if this market will change, if this economy will change, it will not change because of the multinationals. It will change because of the businesses Ghanaians own. And therefore, it's very important that a bank like GCB and many other banks, to promote this economy, we have to build capacity in Ghanaian businesses, not only lend them money, but build capacity and the right governance structures such that these businesses also become multinationals tomorrow. So reporting on compliance is a very important principle that has been included in the framework that has just been released by the Bank of Ghana. Today, companies operating in Ghana can take advantage of sustainable financing opportunities, and they can do so immediately. These are a few of the funds that we are aware of, working very closely with, and have promised that we will tap into those funds to develop sustainable businesses in Ghana. Okay, so the Green Climate Fund is in partnership with GCB and also other banks in Ghana, I am aware. And the Climate Investment Fund is also there. To date, about $82 million have been disbursed or invested in projects for the Green Climate Fund. And for the CIF Fund, about over $100 million has been invested. SANREF, the Agence France Développement, has already released $34 million through various banks in Ghana. Okay, and I am very certain that with GCB coming on board, we can tap into these funds, help develop projects with our customers. And the good thing about these funds is that they are long-term. They are competitive. But we must get our projects right. we really must get our projects right. So I'll be looking forward to working with all of you into the future to make sure that we build climate-friendly projects, projects that are sustainable, projects that are eligible to draw under this fund. And it's interesting, I would like to know, because I found this unique too. I was just telling somebody, in East Africa, the sustainable projects, green climate finance type projects are very active. Very, very, very active. In West Africa, it's a different story. The question is why? The question is really why. And in West Africa, you have the biggest boy in there is our big brother Nigeria, and then Ghana, and then the Francophone countries are all in there. But the uptake of sustainable and renewable financing projects in these markets in West Africa have been very challenging as compared to East Africa. North Africa is a different story. I'm just saying sub-Saharan Africa. So we have a lot of work to do. We need to hold our hands together and work as partners. Partnership is very important. And work as partners and begin to think long term. Begin to think out of the box. Begin to think a little bigger. Well, I know I'm big, but we need to think big. We really need to think big, out of the box, and long term. We need to think like we want our businesses to survive beyond us. A few things I want us to take away, to bear in mind, is that yes, the awareness is there. Yes, there are green financing investment opportunities available. And this does not mean that we will not take caution to risks. Yes, a lot of these projects, you will find some are constrained because of the fact that a number of things haven't gone well. But it shouldn't deter us. We need to understand why things don't work well for some of those projects and fix them. A lot of it has, you can track to capacity, lack of capacity, and also poor funding. The structure, the timing, the currency. So it's very important. So what is GCB doing? GCB is taking a deliberate effort to dedicate capital towards some of these projects. And so we are taking our ESG very seriously. And we'll commit to supporting projects that come and fall within our eligibility criteria, which will be guided by some of these principles we just gone through. We are also investing in people. Sometimes customers think the banks know everything, but we learn from you. We expect you to know your business better than us, and we learn from you. So we are investing in our people. This is a new chapter in the life of many banks. So there's a lot of learning, and we are investing in that. And then there is strengthening partnerships. This is not a loan that we sit back as a bank and give an overdraft and the guy goes off with the overdraft. No, this is not that type of business. We're building an ecosystem that is friendly to both the customer and to the bank. And to build that ecosystem and complete it, we need partners. And last but not the least, I think we are building the right capacity. Most of our programs will come with capacity building grants to support your business, to make you understand your own, derive your own vision, understand your business better, and make sure that you are well equipped to diversify the risks that your business may hold. So thank you very much, and I look forward to having a very interesting conversation with all of you. Thank you.